يسر. إذا أمرت فإن الأفق مزدحم بما تشاء رجال كلهم غرر، وإن دعوت فإن الناس كلهم من كل فج على الأبواب تنتظر. يا سيدي أنت حلم في محاجرنا يشع نورا بها الأزمان تنبهر. من ذا لاسمك اسم قد يماثله مذ أبدعت مجدها من يومها مضر.
All right. Well, I think you saw enough there to get the drift. As we see on Iraqi TV, leading up to the time of the Second Gulf War, Saddam Hussein and his party began to put forth much more of an effort to appear Islamic, because the growing tide of radical Islam had already started. Of course, by September 11th, we saw a manifestation of it, 3,000 Americans killed in the name of Islam. This video, I think, appeared on Iraqi TV after 2001, closer to 2003 invasion. So we see that Islam changed the flag. As we look at the difference, the evolution, if you will, تطور العالم عراقية. If you look at the evolution of the Iraqi flag, you see the evolution of a nation that was Arab, that was much more secular, although all of its inhabitants, most of them, except the Christians, of course, a small minority, but percentage-wise, very small, but Muslims, and yet Islam was not pushed to the point of fighting the Christians, killing them, or forcing them to pay jizya, for example. And you see in 1991, as the West begins to war against Iraq, Islam becomes an issue. Now, it's very interesting, because that flag was the flag of Iraq from 1991 until 2004. Now, remember, America invaded Iraq in 2003. 2004, they put a new flag up. Of course, how could the Shia-controlled Iraq stand for a flag with Allahu Akbar in Saddam Hussein's handwriting? So let's take a look at the next flag in Iraq, which was essentially the same, although Saddam's supposed handwriting on the takbir, Allahu Akbar, has now been changed to Kufic script. Now, that's interesting. They left the flag exactly how it was, except they took away Saddam's handwriting. They wrote the same words in Kufic script. Now, that's very interesting, and we see that that lasted a few years until 2008. And now let's look at the final flag, which is the flag of Iraq today. And I want you to notice what's taking place now. This is the final flag we're going to look at. This is Iraq's flag today. Let's take a look at it. Look at that. Allahu Akbar. What happened to those stars? What happened to the stars that represented unity and freedom and socialism? Remember the flags of Iraq that didn't say anything about Islam? Remember the first flag under Qasim? It showed a sun, which was for the Kurds, the yellow circle, and it had a red Assyrian star to tip the hat to the Assyrian minority. There was no Islamic writing, no Shahada, no Takbir. And then under Saddam, the three stars, no Allahu Akbar until 1991, when the first Gulf War. And now today, the idea of unity and freedom and socialism in Iraq is dead. There's no freedom. There's no unity between the Muslims and the Christians. There's not even unity between the Sunnis and the Shia, let alone the Muslims and the Christians. And so it's been completely taken away, and now the flag is completely Islamic. Now Iraq is becoming like Iran. an Islamic republic. Well, according to our Muslim friends, the more Islamic a people in a nation is, the better the nation should be off. The nation should be more and more like Jannah, should it not? It should be more and more like paradise, more and more like heaven. But Iraq is no paradise, my friends. Even the Iraqis themselves attest to this overwhelmingly. Let's take a look at a recent poll. A recent poll, actually it's not that recent, it's a couple years old. But about 2 years ago, that'd make it what, 2008? A poll conducted by the Iraq Center for Research and Strategic Studies and the Gulf Research Center reports that 9 out of 10 Iraqis feel that the situation in their country was better under Saddam Hussein than it is now. The question was asked, do you feel the situation in the country is better today or better before the U.S.-led invasion? And 5% of Iraqis say that it's better today. 5% say, I'm not sure. And 90% of Iraqis say that their situation, the situation that they have in their country, in Iraq, 90% say it was better under Saddam Hussein. Am I here to say we shouldn't have fought the war? Well, that's another discussion. But what I'm here to say is that Iraq has become, since we went in and gave a Muslim nation free democracy, they freely voted for an Islamic government, not for another Saddam Hussein socialist, secular type government that respects the Christians and everyone else. And now that the religion, Islam, is ruling the country, what's happened to the security of the country? Even more so, what's happened specifically to the protection, to the rights of Christians? Remember, Muslims tell us, oh, minorities, Christians and Jews are protected people in Islam. Well, under Saddam Hussein, the Christians, there weren't many Jews there, but the Christians definitely were protected. I think most of the Jews left Iraq when Saddam came to power, but there was still a handful there. But the Christians were protected. As a matter of fact, Christians were in the government. But once the nation actually became Islamic and is trying to make their constitution perfectly in sync with Sharia, Islamic law, what's happened to the Christians? Let's take a look at this article right here. It says that, and this has been happening ever since 2003, but this one is dated October 11th, 2008. We could find these articles from different periods from 2003 right up until today. But I just selected this article because I thought it was very appropriate. It says, Iraqi Christians told to convert, pay the jizya, or die. Now, that's interesting. Who's telling them that? Other Christians? No, it's Muslims. Well, that's very interesting. Why would they say such a thing? Christians flee Iraqi city after killings threats, officials say. Baghdad, Iraq. At least 900 Christian families have fled Mosul in the past week. Remember, this is October 2008. Terrified by a series of killings and threats by Muslim extremists, ordering them to convert to Islam or face possible death, officials said Saturday. The attacks may have been prompted by Christian demonstrations ahead of provincial elections, which are to be held by the end of January. But we find that it says 13 Christians have been slain in the past 2 weeks in Mosul, about 260 miles north of Baghdad. Fleeing Christians have sought refuge in monasteries and churches and with family members in other towns. The attacks began after hundreds of Christians took to the streets in Mosul and surrounding villages and towns seeking greater representation on provincial councils whose members will be chosen in the local elections. We find here, it says, a week ago, this is in 2008, end of 2008, leaflets were distributed in several predominantly Christian neighborhoods, threatening families to either convert or pay the jizya or leave the city or face death, said the Interior Ministry official. Historically, jizya is a tax paid by non-Muslims in exchange for protection. Protection from who? Protection from the Muslims who will kill you if you don't pay the jizya. Goran said the few days after the leaflets were passed out, gunmen set up checkpoints in parts of Mosul, stopping vehicles to inspect identification papers, searching for Christian names or other signs of religious affiliation. Many of the Christians killed were targeted in this way, he said. We find it says that on and on. It says, we respect the Islamic religion. This is the Reverend Boulos Jacob. We respect the Islamic religion and the Muslim clerics. We don't know under what religion's pretext these terrorists work. Well, I can help you out with that, Reverend Boulos. I know that you are concerned to say what you believe, but let me just say it clearly here in the United States of America, where, at least for right now, we still have the freedom to say what we truly believe and think. Anyone who wants to know why a Muslim in Iraq would send a death notice to Christians and give them a few choices, either pay the jizya or leave town, convert to Islam, or die. Where would Muslims get such an idea? I can't imagine. Actually, yes, I can. It's straight from the Quran. It's from Surah Surah Al-Tawbah, Surah 9, verse 29. Muslims, take a look at this verse if you're not familiar with it. Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book, until what? Until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. That says, hatta ya'tu al-jizya an yid wa hum saghirun. Until they pay you the jizya, and until they feel them with willing submission and feel themselves made small, humiliated. This is exactly what it says. It instructs Muslims, it commands Muslims. The Quran, the book of Islam, supposedly from Allah to Muhammad through the angel Jibreel to Muslims, to you Muslims, it commands you to fight those who believe not in Allah. You say, well, Christians believe in Allah, nor the last day. We believe in the last day. Nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger. Well, now that's where we mess up. Because Muhammad, in your view, Allah's Messenger, forbids Christians to say that Jesus is God. But we believe Jesus is God. Jesus' Spirit is the Spirit of God. God is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Now, by doing that, I make myself someone who Muslims are supposed to fight, according to Surah 9:29. You're supposed to fight me until what? Until I pay you the jizya with willing submission and feel myself humiliated. Fight me until I do that, or until what? What's the alternative? To kill me, just as these Iraqi Muslims were doing to these Christians in Iraq. We could get many, many stories, many video clips of the persecution of Christians in Iraq. Now, are all Muslims this way? Certainly not. Saddam Hussein wasn't that way. My father's not that way, and he's still a Muslim. A lot of my family isn't that way, and they are Iraqi Muslims. But it's not a question of are Muslims this way or Muslims that way. It's a question of how is Islam. And in order to find out the true nature of Islam, you need to study this, the Quran and the Hadith, and you need to study Muhammad himself. What did Allah tell Muhammad concerning being in relation to the infidels? Very quickly before the break, let's take a quick look at some other verses. Verse 73 in Surah Al-Tawbah. Surah Al-Tawbah, Surah 9, verse 73. Ya ayyuha al-nabi jahada al-kafara. Hey, that says, O Prophet, strive hard against the unbelievers. Now you see, Ibn Masaddis, Ibn Tafka, Ibn Bantakiya, that's my name for Yusuf Ali, who translated this thing. He really likes to trick English speakers. It doesn't say strive hard, it says fight jihad. Ya ayyuha al-nabi jahada al-kafara. That means to fight jihad against the unbelievers and the hypocrites, al-munafiqun, and be firm against them. And remember, according to Surah 33:21, all Muslims are to follow Muhammad. That is the whole idea of the hadith and the sunnah, and exactly what Muhammad did. Allah commanded Muhammad to fight the infidels with jihad. You Muslims are commanded to fight. And then again in Surah 9:123, and then we'll take a break. O you who believe, fight the unbelievers who gird you about. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu qatilu alladhina yulunakum min al-kafara. O ye who believe, fight the unbelievers who gird you about, and let them find firmness in you and know that Allah is with those who fear Him. This is Islam. This is why Christians and minorities in Iraq are being persecuted, being killed, being kidnapped, being mutilated, being threatened, being expelled and exiled out of Iraq today because